Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Deputy Managing Director, Future Women, Jamila Rizvi.
Good morning, everybody. It's so lovely to see you all, and welcome to the Sonder Summit. How are we feeling? We can do better than that. Come on, how are we feeling in the room? Thank you. Love how everyone's so obedient. First time there's like a very, and then it's like, no, we did have a lot of coffee. We're fine. My name's Jamila. I am an author and the Deputy Managing Director at Future Women, and I'm delighted to be your host for today. A very warm welcome also to everybody who is tuning in online. We're very happy to have you here with us as well. We are coming to you live from ACO on the Pier in Sydney. I'd like to begin, of course, by acknowledging that we meet today on Gadigal land, and I want to pay my respects to the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, who are the traditional custodians of where we are gathering today. We pay our respect to elders past and present, and extend that respect to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are joining us here today, both in person and, of course, online. Today we celebrate the progress in health, in safety and in wellbeing. We do so on land that has been cared for by the world's oldest continuous living culture, a culture that has always understood the intrinsic link between the health of the land and the health of the people who live on that land, and indeed the health of all living things. We acknowledge that this land has also been a site of music and creative expression for millennia. I want to thank the Gadigal people for their enduring connection to this country and the creative arts. May we learn from their example of deep care for community and for country as we move forward together. Today, everyone, marks the beginning of something really, really special. Sonder Summit has brought together a community of thinkers, of leaders and of change makers to explore bold ideas and the future of care, of connection and of culture. Today is all about meaningful conversations, and I could very much hear the energy of those beginning before we even entered this room. It's a day for fresh inspiration, it's a day for insight, and a day to talk about what really matters for you and for your workplaces and for your people. We know that people and safety leaders are facing roles that are broader and more complicated than they ever have been before. The solutions are not always obvious for what you are dealing with in your workplaces every day. So, through today, you will hear from some truly brilliant speakers. You'll be able to develop your own leadership skills, forge new connections, and deepen some of those existing relationships too. There is a lot to come, but at the same time, we are also going to hold space for reflection and some moments of peace too. I really encourage you today to lean in, to engage fully and make the most of everything that Sonder has to offer. Our hope is that you leave today not only inspired, but reassured and better equipped to meet the growing demands of your people's health, safety, and, of course, their wellbeing. Now, what you've all been waiting for, the housekeeping. A few quick notes, things that you do need to know before we get started. Bear with me, everyone online. The bathrooms are located just outside the theatre, and they're to your left when you exit. Throughout the sessions, there will be a QR code for you to pop your questions into our panel discussions. I really encourage you to use them. Ask your question through the app when you think of it. Like, don't try and wait till the end or something. You will forget it. Really encourage you to be curious and to engage with the conversations on stage. Also encourage you to share your reflections and takeaways online. So don't forget to use the hashtag Sonder Summit. We all know how to do this these days. And to tag Sonder on LinkedIn as well. Now, before we dive into the really exciting agenda that we have for you today, and an agenda of panels and of speakers that you will absolutely love hearing from, I hope you'll indulge me just a few minutes on a personal note before we begin. Not because I love talking about myself, but I do because I'm here with a microphone, I've had coffee. But because I do want to talk a little bit about storytelling, because stories very much remind us why we're here and why the subject matter of this event matters so much, and why it's not about policies and programs or even metrics. That what all of you do is about people at its core. we often talk about workplace culture, I think, like it's something that we either inherit or absorb. But workplace culture, like any kind of culture, is not static. It's an amorphous thing. Culture is made and then it's made over by different leaders and different team members. It's built through habits and through crises. It's built by what we reward and also built by what we ignore and what we forget to pay attention to. For me, the workplaces that I've felt most proud to be part of were the ones where care was both visible and valued. The care we have for one another as colleagues, the care afforded to an employee by management, and the care responsibilities that all of us have to varying degrees outside of work as well. So nearly 8 years ago now, which makes me feel old, I was unexpectedly diagnosed with a rare kind of brain tumour called a craniopharyngioma, which meant that I then had to face the double challenge of survival and learning to spell it. Between the ages of 31 and 33, I underwent 2 brain surgeries and 36 rounds of radiation. I also had to have a nose reconstruction, but that had nothing to do with the brain tumour. My kid hit me in the face with a Spider-Man toy. But it did add to the desperate nature of those couple of years. And over that time, I assembled a medical team, a team of specialists that went into the double digits. You're not supposed to have that many doctors in your life. And I also acquired a whole bunch of complex disabilities that would impact me for the rest of my life. And while I am not ashamed, and actually was never ashamed of becoming sick in the first place, I do feel shame about remaining so. And I think that's the experience of a lot of people in our workplaces, particularly those with chronic ill health or mental health conditions. Misjudged pride kept me working in ways that were certainly dangerous and could have been fatal on a number of occasions. I remember one period doing podcasting and radio early in the morning and doing a few weeks in a row of 5 a.m. or 4 a.m. starts, and it meant that I ended up in hospital with something called an adrenal crisis, which became a medical emergency. And a co-worker was overheard and reported to me asking why I didn't push through like everyone else on the team, because everyone else could manage the early mornings. But despite the pressure of other people's opinions, my altered body and brain mean that I've also had to learn moderation. Didn't particularly like learning moderation, but I've had to learn moderation nonetheless. And I'm much better today at explaining why perhaps I can't travel as often as I'd like, that I need to take the odd internal meeting from bed with the camera off, when my blood pressure's dropped really low. The reality is that if you are someone who is unwell in any capacity, whether it's for a short time or for a long time, you learn that pain and nausea don't care what time your flight departs. They don't care that you might disappoint people that were counting on you. Illness doesn't wait really patiently while you finish off that one last important thing. My body is definitely less resilient than it once was, but I think I am more emotionally and mentally resilient as a result. And resilience is one of those words that gets thrown around all the time when we talk about workplace wellbeing, to the point that I think it becomes almost unhelpful and meaningless. But sometimes when we tell people in workplaces or we talk about becoming more resilient, what we really mean is we know these conditions are kind of unreasonable, but nobody else is complaining, so get on with it. Real resilience is not about being bulletproof. Real resilience is about having the structures and the supports in place so we can be honest about our limits and practical about what is going to be possible for us, knowing that looks different for every person on every individual day. It's made possible through recognition that mental wellness and psychological safety aren't nice-to-haves. They are fundamental considerations for every employer. I've seen what happens when people hit the wall. I have been one of those people who hits the wall. And I can tell you that no one burns out because they were working particularly hard on a project that was meaningful to them with a good team. That's not why or how we burn out, right? We burn out because we hit overwhelm from overwork, from a lack of clarity, from shifting and unfair expectations, from a sense of isolation, and from poor leadership. We burn out because we stop feeling seen, heard, valued at work. And that's why health and wellbeing should be part of the conversation in every boardroom, at every leadership retreat, and at every strategy session. So most patients with craniopharyngioma do not maintain paid employment. Even fewer are able to work full-time in the same roles that they occupied before treatment. Simply being here today and having the very great privilege of being your MC reveals that I fell into the enormously lucky category of an enormously unlucky group of people. I get to do the job that I love day to day, one that is fulfilling and invigorating, and that is not the case for too many disabled people in this country. In my day job at Future Women, my boss Helen supports her team to work flexibly, and my colleagues make it possible for me to be effective while doing so, with the right accommodations, with the right communication, and with some empathy, a good, healthy dose of empathy. I get to contribute in a way that I don't think would have been possible all that long ago. And the same is true of my colleagues who live with chronic illness, who live with mental ill health, who are neurodiverse, who are unpaid carers, who are parents, who face any kind of health or care challenge outside the workplace as well as within it. So in Australia right now, 1 in 5 people has experienced a mental health condition in the last 12 months. Psychological injuries are amongst the fastest growing category of workplace compensation claims, and the time lost to those injuries is often 4 times longer than it is for physical ones. The Productivity Commission has put a price on mental ill health and reduced workforce participation at around $70 billion a year. And when we're talking about productivity and how we increase productivity in this country, it becomes pretty clear that this is an obvious way for us to do that. This isn't just about cost, though. It's about who and what we value and who and what we care about. It's about recognising that how we work, how we lead and relate to one another directly affects people's health and their well-being. And when we design workplaces that care, when we embed well-being in the DNA of how our organisations operate, we don't just reduce harm, we start to unlock people's potential. Back in the day before I started doing this for a living, I worked in politics, and I remember that former PM Julia Gillard used to say all the time when I worked there, she used to speak about the dignity of work. And I don't think I necessarily knew what she meant by that at the time. But the dignity of work lies not only in the ability to earn a living, but to be independent and to make a contribution, to be able to collaborate with other people and to have a sense of recognition for that. So today, when you hear from experts and employees, when you're sharing stories and swapping ideas, I hope you all gain a little more clarity and perhaps a little more courage as well. Courage to name the hard stuff in your workplaces, courage to lead with compassion and to build organisations and workplace cultures that centre well-being, centre equity and centre humanity. I believe that all of you can do that, and I look forward to seeing what's possible through the day.